Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Wildcat Week. I'm Roger Alcock. The men's basketball team faced off against Taylor University in the first game of the Crossroads League tournament on Wednesday. The Wildcats never trailed the Trojans the entire ball game and came away with a final score victory, 102-77. The Wildcats were led by junior Evan Maxwell, who had 22 points and 12 rebounds. Sophomore Kanan Coffey, 20 points and 4 rebounds. Freshman Grant Smith also had 19 points to go along with 5 assists. Now joining me now is men's basketball associate head coach Jeff Clark. And Coach, they always say it's difficult to beat a good team 3 times in a row and or in one season. But boy, I don't know if that was maybe, at least in the first half, the best combination of offense and defense we've seen from the Wildcats this year. But you guys got off to a very quick start, at least.
Yeah, we were really pleased with how our guys came out. Actually, earlier in the day, we'd been looking at the previous first round in our conference tournament, and we've been upset. Last year, we were the 2 seed, and Huntington was the 7 seed, and we went to overtime to win that game. So it's never easy to beat a team for a third time, especially when you get to postseason play. So we're really happy with how our guys performed.
Maybe the key to that quick start was Evan Maxwell. We mentioned his 22 points and 12 rebounds, but in the first half, he had 11 points and 10 rebounds. He had a double-double in the first half, but you got the ball to him early, and he produced.
Yeah, not only that, he was really good on the defensive end. He was active and aggressive on both sides of the court, and the whole team fed off of his energy.
We're going to take a look at some of the highlights from this ball game, and another guy I wanted to ask you about, though, is Grant Smith. Maybe his 2 best games in the regular season were against Taylor. He came off the bench and did the same thing again last night against the Trojans.
He was really aggressive and driving downhill. And to see both the points he put on the board, but also the way he passed the ball when he was driving it was really, really helpful for us.
Kanan Coffey in this game. Kanan is one of these guys where, as a freshman, we saw he can shoot the basketball. This year, maybe a little bit of a slow start, but this last month, he's been a real factor for you guys.
Our favorite part about Kanan's progress is the amount of time he spends in the gym. If you come over to the Rec and Wellness Center, you're going to see him in there at all hours of the day getting shots up and practicing his game. And there's no surprise that he's shooting this well because of how much time he works on.
And the other guy I was going to mention, there you see Joel Okafor. We know what he can do defensively. He had been kind of almost a game changer in terms of what he brought to the floor defensively, but now he's making such good decisions in terms of when he dribbles, maybe taking it to the rack or looking to dish, but he's really been a nice surprise, at least to me, the last couple of weeks.
That's been one of the fun parts of this whole team is we just keep finding new things and these guys keep growing. Nobody's defining or limiting what they can add to the team, and no one's doing it in a selfish way. So last night, Kyle Menges probably didn't have his best offensive game, but you wouldn't even have known it because other guys stepped up and made plays.
I was going to ask you about that. Defensively, I thought, okay, Kyle in the first 2 games, he had, 25 in one game, and I think 30 in the other game against Taylor. They knew they had to do something to try to slow him down. Did they do anything differently against him?
They were really overloading Kyle. When he drove, there were guys running at him. In the first half, it was fairly effective against him, and then he just chose not to force and give it up to other guys, and the other guys made him pay.
Yeah, I think Kyle still ended up with 11 points. But there you see again, Joel in the open floor, little burst of speed, and he's so strong around the basket, even though he's not the biggest guy or the tallest guy.
We're so happy with how he's progressed. It was only a year ago when in the first round of the conference tournament, Joel went in against Huntington and had a huge game, and ever since then hasn't looked back from the starting spot for the point guard, and he just continues to mature as a player on and off the court.
I thought that was a really big play right there because, again, Kyle didn't force anything, but when he had opportunity, he took it, and that, I think, even maybe forced a timeout from the Trojans. Grant Smith just hustling all night long. We saw the kind of crazy dipsy-do shot he had a minute ago, but very active.
Yeah, we love his mentality. He's not going to back down from anyone. He doesn't care if he's a freshman. He's going to go right at it, and he's going to play his guts out every possession.
I'll say it, when the Wildcats can get Kanan Coffey shooting threes like that off the break, just catch and shoot, really, really dangerous team offensively.
Yeah, and if you look over the last 6 games, he's made 19 threes and made over 50% of them. So it's starting to become a habit more than an abnormal thing.
You know, Sam McCracken gave you some minutes in this game as well because Ben Carlson got some foul trouble, and, you know, Evan was playing a lot of minutes. Sam had a couple of good minutes there for you guys.
That's exciting for us going into the postseason. You know, from
Yeah.
the national tournament, when you have to win 5 games in 6 days to win a championship, there's going to have to be new guys step up. And if Sam keeps focused and working hard, he might be one of those guys.
Well, okay, so now we're in the second half. The Wildcats went into the locker room at the half with a 20-plus lead. You know, I thought Taylor came out playing really hard, really aggressive, but they never got that lead closer to 19, and so, you know, they took it up a notch. You guys took it up a notch.
Yeah, we were laughing at one of the timeouts. We were about 7 minutes into the half, and they were shooting 75% from the field, and we were still winning in the half by 1 point.
Exactly. And that was kind of a thought. It's like, you know, there's still a lot of time left. If they knocked that lead down to 12 points or even 10, all of a sudden, and they were performing offensively to do that, all of a sudden things could look a little different.
Yeah, you've been in those games, and you've seen those games where a team has a big lead and they relax a little bit, the other team starts making shots, and all of a sudden you feel like you can't buy a bucket. But Taylor came out, to their credit, and made some great plays. You see some shots that are going in, even against good defense.
Yes.
But our guys never took the pedal off the gas, and we continue to push the ball and play aggressively. And that's really what you got to do to win. You can't get a lead and relax.
Exactly.
You have to keep pushing it.
Well, having said all that, I think that did take a lot of energy out of them. And then you guys, your bench, again, was really huge. You know, got different guys minutes and continue to produce. And I really thought whoever came in played well, played unselfish, found the hot hand, things like that. We all love Trevor Waite.
Yeah, he's a guy that's just such a joy to coach. He will do anything to win. The guys actually this week, Kyle Mangus won the Player of the Year, the POY. Well, they started naming Trevor Waite the Screener of the Year. And they've all been having a good time with that. And that's Trevor's mentality. If he's got to come in and set a screen, or he's got to come get an offensive rebound or guard the best player, he'll come off the bench and do anything he can to help the team
Has anyone
win.
taken more charges this year than Trevor Waite?
It'd be hard to find.
Yeah. Well, we're at the 10-minute mark, and there you saw a little nice play by Tim Fleming there. But I really thought this was kind of at the point where, you know, Evan buries that 3. You're back up on top by 23, 24 points. And I don't think Taylor never gave up, but I think at this point they knew, you know, the ball game had been decided.
Yeah, I sometimes put myself in an opposing coach's shoes and think about what it'd be like to game plan against our guys. And there's so many options on the floor, but they're also so unselfish and they move the ball. I think it would be a nightmare to try to match up against.
Well, and that's what you talked about, Kyle Mangus not maybe having his best game offensively. He didn't take shots that weren't there. And so he was content with playing some pretty solid defense, got some big rebounds, moved the basketball, and with the focus being on him, I mean, it did create opportunities for other guys.
And if you were in the locker room, you wouldn't have known if he scored 40 points or 9 points. He was so happy for his teammates.
Well, it sets up a big game Saturday against Huntington. You split with those guys in the regular season. We know a couple things. They're going to come in here and play hard. They're going to be enthusiastic. They're going to bring a big crowd. It should be a lot of fun, at least for me.
Yeah, they're a team that offensively is playing at another level than we've seen. They've been scoring in the hundreds consistently coming to this game, and it's going to be a real big challenge for our guys.
All right. Well, of course, we'll have that game here on WIWU. Looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Well, Coach, thanks for coming on in. As we said, next up for the Wildcats, they host the Foresters of Huntington. It'll be the Crossroads League Tournament semifinals Saturday, February 24th. Game time is at 3 p.m. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk some women basketball. Their big game in the Crossroads League Tournament against St. Francis, so don't go away. Well, welcome back to Wildcat Week. The women's basketball team hosted the Cougars of St. Francis University as they started the Crossroads League postseason tournament. The Wildcats struggled on the offensive end, but they were able to overcome and came out with the victory. They won the game by a final score of 59-58, leading the way for the Wildcats. Senior Anna Imhoff, 15 points, 2 assists. Sophomore Carly Lang had 11 points and 8 rebounds. Senior Brittany Washington, 6 points and 6 assists. Will join me now to talk about this big win at home in the first round of the tournament is assistant coach Brent Bellinger. And Coach, it wasn't pretty, but you'll always take a win, won't you?
I did talk to somebody afterwards that there's no such thing as a bad win,
Yeah.
but there is an ugly win. And I think once you get into postseason play, especially in our conference, it's always going to be tough. 7, 8, 6. Anybody who is traveling is playing for their postseason lives, and St. Francis really brought some energy.
The one thing maybe I took away from this game was in the first outing in the regular season, they blew your doors off.
Yep.
82 points. I don't know that we've given up that many points all season long
Right.
to anybody else. The second game at their place, much different story, much better performance, and maybe one of the best defensive efforts the Wildcats gave all season, held them to 52 points. So I don't know if you guys wanted this to be a low-scoring game or not, but to hold them, which to under 60, a pretty good offense, that was a positive.
Definitely at times. We had really good efforts. We had players step up in times when you need to. I saw the stats for Carly Lang, sophomore. Mm-hmm. She has been someone we've called the X Factor,
Yeah.
and when it really comes down to moments in the game, that she carried the team at times.
There was Sarah McLemore getting the basket there for you as we take a look at some of the highlights. And, quite frankly, maybe this first quarter was very emblematic of the entire game. We finished the quarter tied 8-8. Excuse me, I got choked up over it, an 8-8 score in the first quarter. Yeah, in terms of, it was a hard physical game. It never felt any team got into a rhythm per se,
Right.
but, at least you closed out the first half well with that nice assist to Anna Imhoff.
Right. Yeah, and that's what you really expect from upperclassmen in the postseason, people with experience, toughness, they're leaders, making plays in those big moments.
Third quarter, the key to this game probably, because you were able to, in a game that was back and forth and tight, you were able to build a little bit of a lead.
Right.
I don't think it ever got over 6 or 7, but it was a lead that St. Francis was never able to overtake.
Right, yeah, the third quarter we did a little bit better on both ends of the floor. I do think in the fourth quarter it got up to 9 at one point before they went on a 7-0 run, but it was that moment we challenged them at halftime, down 1. We knew it was going to be a battle. He said, hey, it's not about X's and O's, it's about toughness and who's going to be the players that get to the floor first to make the big plays, to be focused in.
There were a couple huge threes in this game. That was one from Katie Key. Again, the 3 went down. It didn't look like it was going to go down, but it did. Later, Anna Imhoff buried a 3 that looked like this might be it right here. It sat on the back of the iron, then fell in. But those end up being really big shots.
Well, you can tell with St. Francis how they're playing. They're not allowing a lot of ball movement, and we had to rely at times on some individual efforts. And Anna she has been a player this year when we've needed her.
Saw Elena Adedua come in. You had some big minutes or some important minutes from your bench, from Janae, from Elena, from Dayton Groninger. She ended up with 8 points in this game. You needed every one of those contributions tonight or that night.
And those are the games that we always feel the best at, where you don't have just one person scoring and 0 bench points. It's when we can share the ball, that's the kind of team offense that we want to have. We're creating for each other. When everyone gets a piece of the pie, we feel pretty good.
Well, this game was getting a little scary as we were closing it down. You had the 2-point lead here, then the offensive foul called there, but somehow you're able to hang on to the win, and then a little bit later got a couple free throws that were big for us. But that last 30 seconds seemed like it took forever.
It really did. We probably extended it longer because we really got to a good spot where it was a 9-point lead.
Yeah.
St. Francis came all the way back, and so now it's every play counts, every moment counts. We made a couple of mistakes that could have helped us seal it if we would have really come through. And what it did is put us in a position where we had to make plays. And we did. You saw that really good stop leading up to this where we got the ball back.
And it's not you cannot overstate how big that last free throw was, because we saw what Buck did right there. If Anna didn't hit at least that one free throw, we're going to overtime.
And what you don't see is right before that play, Brittany Washington makes 2 free throws.
Yes.
And Brittany Washington hit a floater. It really, those last couple possessions, we needed everything that we got, obviously, when you win by 1.
Well, now that sets up a semifinal matchup against the Taylor Trojans. Should be a great game Friday night in Lucky Arena. You split with Taylor this season. Got to be happy this game's at home, I would think.
And happy that we're healthy. I
Yeah.
think Taylor's really good. They have a all-national team player. I mean, Bradbury is really talented, and they got so many experienced players around her. But having, Nicole Ignashik healthy, having it at home, there's a lot of stuff going for us that, you tell you what, if we can execute and we can be tough, I like our chances against anybody.
Well, and that is key. I've heard Coach Whaley talk about it a lot, is, taking that toughness level to another level, or that effort to another level, the execution. I think a lot of people might think offense, but really defense is the key in maybe postseason, isn't it?
Right, especially when you play against really good players and coaches that have done it for so many years. The stuff that they're going to run offensively is really good. So we try really hard as a coaching staff to figure out a really good scheme to defend it against it. And it takes some thinking, and it takes some of that execution, and maybe changing the game plan a little bit to be able to work together defensively to stop it. But when all else fails, if you're tough, if you make a mistake but battle through it, that's what's going to win the game at the end anyway.
All right, well, we'll look forward to being there Friday night and watching the Wildcats maybe make one more trip to the Monday night championship game.
You know what? Anything can happen in postseason. That's why we play. That's why it's so fun. We're expecting the girls to be ready.
All right, well, thanks for stopping by, Coach. As we mentioned, the Wildcats do indeed host the Taylor University Trojans in the Crossroads League semifinals of the tournament. Game time on Friday, February 23rd, is 7 p.m. Well, when we come back, we'll check in with Steve Babinski to hear about the start of the softball season, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Wildcat Week. The Indiana Wesleyan softball team is already 7 games into their season. They couldn't ask for a better start. They sit at 7-0. Well, on February the 19th, they went down to Kentucky to take on Brescia in a doubleheader. Wildcats win the first game 5-0. Great pitching from Carly Weaver, the senior, struck out 6 batters. Then in the second game, the Wildcats did give up 1 run, but they eked out a tough, close ball game. Final score 2-1. Well, joining me now to talk about Wildcat softball is the head coach of the Indiana Wesleyan squad, Steve Babinski. 7 seasons now here at Indiana Wesleyan. It's gone by quickly.
It's been a blast. I want the next 7 to go a little slower, though.
Well, let's talk about this year in a second, but maybe put a little bit of a wrap on last year, because it was a great year, kind of a historic year in some senses. 44-15 overall. For the first time ever, though, the Wildcats won an NAI National Tournament game, and that got you to the World Series, and that had to be a great experience for your team.
Yeah, it really was. We've won national tournament games before, but we've never been able to advance out of the opening round to make it to the final site of 10 teams. So that was phenomenal, being able to beat in 3 days the 3 highest ranked opponents in school's history, the 9, the 11, the 9 again in the nation. So that was phenomenal.
Well, that you would think would maybe hopefully set up this season. But there's a lot of new faces on this squad. You have 9 new girls on this team, but I know you're excited about what they bring to the table, not only in terms of their character and their academics, but also just their skill level of softball players.
You're right. The chemistry is first. We've got a team that has bought into a team above self mentality, putting God first and others second, and themselves a far third. Ability-wise, the amazing team last year, we only graduated 2 seniors, 2 starting seniors, and being able to bring in a cast of freshmen with unlimited potential. Our starting lineups in the first 7 games, we'll have anywhere from 3 to 5 freshmen in that lineup, which is really, really exciting.
Well, one of the keys, obviously, is what you do on the mound. We talked about Carly's performance. She's your senior on the mound, but you have a really good freshman. Talk us about your freshman thrower.
Mackenzie Ridge. We knew coming out of high school she was special. She chose us instead of a lot of other pretty remarkable offers and schools knocking down her door. But she came for the right reason. She wants to grow in her faith and get a phenomenal degree at Indiana Wesleyan. And then coming in, she's pitching with composure of a senior. She's given up 2 runs in close to 30 innings, and just phenomenal leader on the field, and a tireless worker, one of the hardest workers on our team. So when Mackenzie or Carly are on the mound, the team rallies behind them, and a couple unsung heroes, Danielle Munn, who could be seen as a comeback player of the year when it comes to overcoming injury, and she's a lefty pitcher specialist that's phenomenal. And then an incoming freshman that is platooning a little bit, that is growing leaps and bounds every day, Shannon Arndt. So our 4-person pitching staff is pretty remarkable. I wouldn't want to scout Indiana Wesleyan pitching. I'd be depressed the night before we play us.
Well, it sounds like you got that side of the field covered, or you're excited about it. But obviously, you need to score runs as well. It's early in the season, but offensively, swinging the bats pretty well. Room for improvement. Where do you feel you're at right now?
Good question. Our identity has largely been a high-powered offense. We just need to score 1 more than our other team. This year, we've taken a little different identity. In 7 games, our defense has only committed 1 error. It's phenomenal. We've won a game with only 2 hits, and we've won a game with being out hit 11-6. So our offense has been really creative this year, stealing a lot of bags and getting timely hits and putting a lot of pressure. But I would say some of the key people early that have come up with some clutch at bats have been our lefties, our slappers, and that is Kelsey Koistra and Lauren Buckley. We've gotten some production too out of our 3-4 with Kristen Exposito and Alex Springer, and then some really fun new faces. We won a 2-1 ball game, a close fought ball game against Brescia, where both RBIs were 2 separate at bats by Hannah Eiler, who's a sophomore who really hasn't scratched a lot of playing time, but when given the opportunity, really stepped up and helped the team out.
As we kind of put a wrap on this segment, Coach, it's not going to be a very long couple weeks. Yeah. You guys will board the planes and head to Tucson.
That's right.
For spring break. Great location to play, but some pretty good competition as well.
Absolutely. We open up against Olivet Nazarene, who is almost looking into a mirror sometimes, and then we'll face St. Francis of Illinois, and they are a top 10 program, and they're going to want a little bit of revenge. We upset them last year to make it to the World Series. We had to beat them twice, and so they're going to be out to get us. So I never shy away against playing the best. If you want to be the best, you got to play the best.
Well, and enjoy some sunshine while you're at it.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, Coach, thanks so much for coming in, and congratulations on the great start.
Thank you, Roger.
Well, next up for the Wildcats is a series with IU East. That's coming up next week, February 26th, 2:30 game time down at IU East. Well, that's all we have for you on this episode of Wildcat Week. If you'd like to see more of Wildcat Week, you can visit our website, wiwtv.com. There you can watch past episodes and connect with us online. Again, that's wiwtv.com. And you can stay connected with all of our local programmings by subscribing to our YouTube channel, that's WIWTV 51 on YouTube. Well, we look forward to seeing you next week. So for all of us here, thank you for watching Wildcat Week.